Scraper Setup. Welcome to Stalkit Tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you all the options you have in the Scraper Setup screen. If you haven't watched the previous video, which covered all the generic scraper settings, I recommend you to watch it as well. Let's start with creating a new scraper. I'll give it a quick name. Move on to the next screen and click on Open Scraper Builder. The window will open up in a new tab and is split into two sections. The left section is where you create all the scraper actions list, and the right section is the preview window. Let's start by going over all of the possible actions in the Actions panel. The first action from top left is the URL. When clicking on any action, it will add the item in the action list in the same order the actions will be performed. If you have a single URL you want to scrape, you can enter it into the Open Page field. If you have multiple URLs, you can create a separate scraper that will import the URLs list from Excel, and then use the From table and URL column fields to tell the scraper to use the list collected from Excel. In case you selected not to use Selenium, but HTTP GET POST request, you can set it up in the Method field and add headers in the bottom section. For example, I can add User Agent header, Cookie, or any other headers. If you are using Post Request, you can add the post data content by adding a post data header. If you want to do multiple post requests, which differs in the post data is sent with the request, then put in the URL field the URL of the request, and in the From table and URL column, instead of choosing where the URLs list will be taken from, you will choose the table and columns where the post data will be taken from. You can watch a use case of this type in video number 18. If you open the advanced options, you can select on how many sessions you want to run the scraper. This is relevant only when scraping multiple URLs. If your sources have a strong security, it's best to leave the default of one server in order not to get detected and blocked. The other two options are relevant mostly for websites that need login in order to access the data. The default of behavior of the scrapers is that in case you are loading multiple URLs, each one will open in a new Chrome session according to the amount of sessions you have set up. However, if we need to log in first, we will want to set the same session to Yes and do the scraping in the same session that we did the login. The next two actions are used for APIs, and your choice of which one to use is dependent on what type of data the API returns. Some will return JSON type, and some will return XML. All the options are very similar to the URL's action. The next optional action is importing data from Excel. Whether you want to run scraper on multiple URLs or want to run multiple inputs, you will need to first import the data from your file. You can use one of these formats, XLSX, XLS, or CSV. You can either select a file from your computer. The other option is to choose if the file you are importing has a header row or not. When extracting data from Excel, you will have the option to choose what columns you want to extract. The next action is called Sitemap. Sitemaps are a way for the website to tell search engines like Google and Bing what pages the websites have. For example, many websites that has multiple dynamic pages that are only accessible after running a search in the website will not be scanned by Google crawlers unless they are listed in the sitemap. This is very powerful and a fast way for scraping data without having to use the search form and looping through hundreds of paginated pages. I will teach you ways to find these sitemaps later on in video number 20. This action has two basic fields. First, one is the URL of the sitemap, and the second one is the name of the table you want to save it as. Unlike other actions, if you want to scrape data from sitemap, you don't have to add any other action because all sitemaps have the same format, and the table will be created with one column, which will contain the page URL. I'll skip on the next one and leave to the end, and let's move forward to the click action. This is used for clicking on elements within the page. You can select if you want to click on a single item or multiple ones. In the advanced options, you will again have an option to select how many sessions you would like to run. So if, for example, there are 10 items in page, you want to click and you select 2 sessions, then each time 2 clicks will be performed at the same time. The next action is the input action and is used to fill up forms like logins or search forms. First, you will need to select the input item you want to enter data into. It can be a text input, select from list, or any other type of input field. Then, in the text field, you can put the text you want to fill in that field, or you can use previously scraped table to load multiple text. In the advanced options, you will have the same options like in the click action. The next action is useful if you need to scroll the page. Some websites loading data only when the page is scrolled down. You can enter how many times to scroll down to the bottom page. The action after that is to add timeout between actions. There are plenty of events when you will need to add some timeout. A few examples are not to get blocked, when data is loaded dynamically and not straight away when the page is loaded, and more. We will now move on to the third line of actions. The first two are connected to each other and allow you to download the page HTMLs, instead of scraping them straight from the page URL. I like to use this option when I get big projects with plenty of fields because it allows me to correct things and rerun on the local saved copy instead of rerunning it on the website. In the first action, you will select the table and column where to take the URLs from. You can add actions like clicks or timeouts after this action, and the page will be saved only after these actions are performed. You can watch an example in video number 14. The other action will be used when we want to use the previously downloaded file names and extract data from them. The next is used for scraping emails from domains. If you are looking for leads and has a list of companies' domains, you will find this tool very useful. You can choose between 2 types of email collecting methods. First one is to collect one contact email from each website. It will go over the home page, about us, and contact us pages. The other option is to go over all the website pages and collect all emails available. It's useful if you want to collect not only generic emails but also some key positions. You will get a list containing all emails and the page URLs where they were found. The last action before moving back to the one we skipped is used for downloading media files or PDFs. If you need to download some product images or PDF files, you will need to choose the table and column to take the URLs from, and the next 4 settings will be used to decide how to organize the files. The subfolders will allow you to organize the files into subfolder according to the selected column, and can be used, for example, to divide the images into folders according to category name or product name. The File Names field is used to decide how to name the files. Leaving it empty will keep the original file name from the download URL. Prefix and suffix will just add text in the names before and after the file name accordingly. After the download process is completed, you will be able to download zip files containing the files download when accessing the scraper data screen. If you run it on multiple servers, you will get also multiple zip files. Okay, moving back now to the one we skipped, the extract data action. Let's first load some page URL for this part. This is the main action used to select what fields you want to scrape. This action is split into 2 parts. The upper part will affect on how many rows of data you want to scrape, and the lower one will affect on what columns you want to scrape for each row. The first thing you need to do is give a name to the output table. This name will be used if you want to use the data in other scrapers. Also, when you export the data, the file name will be given the name of the table. The Upper Elements button will let you choose what elements you want to scrape in the page. In this example, we want to scrape all business listings from the Yellow Pages page. In order to be able to select elements on page, we first need to click on the Elements button and switch to the selection mode. After switching, you will see that while you hover over any item in screen, it will be marked in yellow. Once we click on any item in the page, that item will be marked with a purple border, and on the left panel below the elements, you can see automatic suggestions for more items from this type. If you don't choose any of the options, only the first item will be scraped. In this example, we can see that it automatically found 30 similar results, and when I'll click on this option, it will mark all the similar objects. It may bring you more than one option, but you can always switch between the suggestions and see what items are marked. As you can see, we currently marked only the business name, but because we want to take other info like category, phone, and address, I will want the top element selection to mark all the boxes that include our info. In order to do that, I can either click again, but this time I won't click on specific text, but on the edge of the box of the data. Now you can see that it marked the whole box with the data we need. And again, I will select the suggestion with 30 results. Another way to do it is to click any text inside the box like we did before, and then use the item selector navigation panel and go up to the parent element until it marks the whole box. If you're a programmer and know how to use XPath expressions, you can also enter manually the XPath expression in this input and click on Add. But most of the times, the automatic suggestions should be good enough for what you need. So in this example, since we selected the suggestion with 30 results, it means that while scraping, we will get 30 rows of data. Now, all we need to do is to select what fields we want to scrape in the bottom fields panel. So let's enter a name for our first column and call it BizName. The field's name can't contain any spaces. And then we will click again on the Elements button to switch to the selection mode. After clicking on it, you will see that the purple boxes disappear. Now, in order to select the name, we can click on any of the result names. It doesn't have to be the first item. Once clicked, you will see that the item is marked with the same color as the field name. So, when we add more fields, it will be easier to distinguish between the fields. After selecting the field, you will also be able to see the value of the item selected here. When we select fields, we have 3 options of what data we want to collect for this field. Text will scrape the text of the element that was chosen. HTML will scrape the inner HTML code of the element. Attribute will give us the option to scrape different attributes this item has and is useful for things like image links, emails, and links URLs. Once you switch to the attributes option, you will see all of the attributes this HTML element has. In addition, you will see an option named Count, which will scrape the number of elements found from the same type. It's useful, for example, when you want to scrape the rank of each result. Since we want the business name, we will switch back to the text option. Let's do the same and add more fields for the other data we want to scrape. I'll quickly add more fields for the phone and address, and we'll actually split the address into 2 fields, address 1 and address 2. If you want to split the data further to city, state, and zip code, we will show you how to do it in the text modification tutorials. Let's add now 1 more field to scrape the website of each result. Once I click to mark the website field, you will see that the text will show the value website and not the actual link. So what I'll do in this case is switch to the attributes selection. However, since I've selected the text and not the actual link, I won't be able to see here the link as the one of the attributes. So what I will do is click on the up arrow in the navigator and go to the parent element until I can see the link. In this case, 1 click was enough, but sometimes you'll need a few more. Now you can see the href attribute, which is usually used for links, and I will choose this option. For images, you will usually see an attribute named src. Basically, I finished creating my scraper and can go down and save it. If I want to change the order of fields, I can just drag them and play with the order. I can also drag the actions and change the order of the actions performed. One more useful option in the fields is that I can give 2 or more fields the same name. Let's say, for example, I want to scrape the website link, but if the business doesn't have a website listed, I want to put in that column the Yellow Pages page of this business. In order to do it, I'll add another field and give it the same name, website. And for this, I will select again the business name. But because I want to collect the link, I will switch to the attributes option and choose the href option. While the scraper will run, because we put the field's order like this, it will first search for the business website link. And if it will be empty, it will save the other field we selected. If we switch the order, it will collect the Yellow Pages link for all of them, because none of them will be empty. Let's see what other options we have in the item selector box. The other arrows are very simple to use. The down arrow will go to the first child of the element we clicked on, while the right and left will go to the next and previous siblings. We can also use the search input and filter items by specific text they contain. For example, let's say I want to scrape if the results have an Order Online button. I will enter Order Online to the search input and click on Enter. Then I can choose the Count option, and in the output, I see the number 1 in each row that has this button. The last option in the item selector box is the Pin option. In order to understand what it does and when to use it, let's take, for example, TripAdvisor, and let's say I want to scrape hotel grades. I've loaded 2 hotel pages, and if we go down to the rating section, you can see that one of them has 4 categories: location, cleanliness, service, and value, while the other one only has location and service. The basic idea of scraping is to point the scraper to location in the HTML where to take each piece of data from. However, if we want to scrape the service rating, we have a problem here, because on one page it will be second value, while on the other page it will be the third value. So if we choose the elements the same way as before and mark the service field, in the second page we will actually get the cleanliness value in this field. In order to solve it, we have the Pin option, and what we'll do is enter into the search field the value service and click on Enter. And it will mark us the service field. Now you can see it automatically pinned it when using the search text, and then any movement I do with the arrows will be relative to the item that I pinned. In this example, if I move left or right, it won't do anything. But if I click on the parent element and then click on the left arrow, it will mark the grade which I want to scrape. This will tell the scraper to search the service field, then go 1 item up and left, and it doesn't matter if it's the first grade in the list, 3rd, or 100th, it will always find it. These are the basic features of the Scraper Builder screen. We will go deeper to some advanced options in the next video.